now. So if you guys can hear me, make sure you throw up a comment and tell me that you can hear me, you can see me, everything's good. Got some people joining on Instagram right now. Let's see, can you guys hear me over there on Instagram land or Facebook, YouTube? Can you guys hear me? Gina, you can hear me. Awesome. Okay, all good. Awesome. So my name is Keith Kraker. I'm one of the co-founders here at Carbon, and I'll be here answering your questions about the app if you haven't signed up yet, or if you have and you have questions about how it works, or like you need specific guidance on what goal you should choose and stuff like that. I'm here for you today. So let me know if you have any questions. Everybody can hear me. That's great. Hi, Uncle Keith. Hey, what's up? What's up? Got quite a few people coming in now, which is awesome. Throw up your questions and I'll get to them. On Instagram, if you can put them in the question box thing, that'll be great because then it'll be easier for me to pull them up. But like I said, my name's Keith Kraker. I'm one of the co-founders here at Carbon. I'm actually a registered dietitian. And between Lane and Holly and I, we kind of put our heads together and made this algorithm of the app, the coaching algorithm, based on all the years of experience we have. So let's see, I got a question here on Instagram. How should we measure our body fat with calipers to enter into the app? So that's a good question. There's a lot of calculators online that you can put in the measurements from a skinfold caliper and it'll spit out body fat number. So what I would recommend is you, sorry, my dog's making noise over here. What I would recommend is you put it into an online calculator to figure out exactly the body fat percentage. So in the app, we don't actually allow you to put like the skinfold caliper measurements, but if you can find out the calculator online, put it in, I would recommend using that body fat percentage number. Let's see. So I got some in the comment thing. Instagram here. Oh, I answered that one already. So what happens on the weekly check-in? Just signed up today. So when you check in to the app, what it'll do, it'll evaluate the progress you're making and then determine if you need adjustments to your macros. So if you just signed up and set up your goal, it should walk you through that whole process. And then let's see. Sorry, I'm just reading this real quick. So yeah, when you set your weekly goal, you'll pick your rate, you'll pick your goal, and then every week it'll ask you to check in, and then it'll adjust those macros to make sure that you're progressing at that rate every single week. Let's see, lots going on here. Got a lot of people jumping in. Let's see. Any questions on Instagram? So if I overeat one day, do I have to adjust the weekly planner? That's actually a really good question, and I can actually show you. So let me pull up let's see. So I have the app here and I can demo it for you. So if you overeat on a specific day, what you need to do is from your diary, you'll click the planner. And then what you need to do is you need to adjust the day to match what you overate on. So let's say you overate on a Wednesday. You would adjust this up to be where you ate for that specific day. And then what it'll do is it'll distribute the rest of those calories equally throughout the week to make you stay on track with your weekly average. So you can lock that day in based on what you ate, and then the rest of the week will stay on track with the average. So if you, let's say you're going and then you also overeat on Thursday, you could adjust that up to where you overate as well and then lock it in place. And then the rest of the week will stay on track with your average. So what we designed this so that you can easily kind of plan out your week and keep your week on track with the weekly average. So as long as you are hitting these weekly average targets in your diary, it will keep you on track with your goal. and you will be considered what we call compliant with your macro targets. And I realize that you guys can't see that on Instagram. Sorry about that. So that's how you adjust the calorie planner. And this is a really cool feature that a lot of you have been, loving, and we love all the feedback, and we're going to be constantly improving this feature in the future. But that's kind of a quick rundown on the calorie planner. Let's see. Okay. So we got some Instagram. Wow, Instagram's blowing up here. Let's see. Answering an Instagram question here. Nearing my weight loss goal after a long diet, have more to lose later, but want a break. Would you recommend? Shoot, it got cut off. So I'm assuming you're asking would I recommend a reverse diet. So if you have been doing a long diet and your calories are low, I would definitely recommend switching over to a reverse diet setting after you reach your weight loss goal, or if calories get too low. So I would recommend doing a reverse diet in that scenario. Let's see. Let's see if I can answer one here on YouTube. Let's see. Let's see this one here. I'm losing weight rapidly, 6 pounds in 5 days on a fat burn, low carb diet. I'm totally happy about it, but worried the app will slow me down after my first check-in. Trust the process. So that's very fast rate of loss. 6 pounds in 5 days is pretty crazy. But you do typically lose more weight when you start a diet. So maybe you were retaining more water when you started, and then you had like that initial drop of water. So what I would do is I would check in your first week and kind of let the app see what happens. Your weight loss will probably slow down a little bit. It's usually just a lot more in the beginning. So if you can make it to your first check-in, I would recommend doing that and then letting the app kind of adjust. But like a lot of people reach out and ask about are these the right macro targets, or am I on the right track? And as long as you are checking in regularly to the app and filling out like daily weights if you can, or even once a week weights are fine too, but the more you enter is more accurate. But as long as you're checking in, tracking your diet, making sure you're hitting the macros, like it is going to learn your body and it is going to adjust to find exactly where you need to be. So most of the time it is about trusting the process. But Armando, if you are having like specific concerns, you can reach me at support@joincarbon.com, and I'll look into it a little bit deeper and give you more specific recommendations if I can. But great questions. Let's see. Another one here. How do I enter daily weights? So I'll pull up my screen again. And let me see. So to add your weight into the app, you're going to click the coach tab. And of course, I don't have a goal set. So let me set a goal, and then I can show you how to add your weight. So you're going to need a goal set. So let's just say I want to lose weight. Let's say I'm 190. I want to be 180. 10% body fat. Let's see. Okay, so I'll just quickly create a goal here just so I can show you guys. So now when you have your goal set, the way that you add weight to the app is you go to the coach tab, and then on the coach tab, you will you see the button add weight right there. That's where you add weights. So every day you can go into this tab and add your weight. So you click add weight, and then let's just say today I was 189, and body fat's optional. You don't have to put it, but if you want to put it, it gives the app more data to work with. So let's say I was 10% again. So each day, if you want, you can put in daily weights. And what the app will do is it will, when you check in, it will actually pull all those daily weights, compile them together, make an average, and then determine if that average is where we want to see it for that week. And during your first week, the app doesn't look at your average because it doesn't have an average to compare to. But from week 2 and moving on, the app will look at your weekly averages and then compare them to the previous week's weekly average. And then when you get further out, the app actually evaluates multiple weeks averages to determine if you need to have an adjustment. So the more you use the app, the more accurate it's going to be in its recommendations. So a lot of people ask, like, do you need to do daily weights? You don't need to, but I think the more data that you can provide the app, the more accurate adjustments you're going to get. So let's see, maybe I can answer some on Instagram here. Got a couple here. So I understand you are asked if you are compliant when you do check-in. You're about to do yours tomorrow and you have not hit the protein target. I'm assuming you're asking if that would be considered compliant. So if you're outside of the range, so when you check in, it'll give you a range of calories, protein, carbs, and fats. And if you are outside of that range, I would probably just say you're non-compliant. That's basically what we deem as like within range to say you're compliant. So if your protein is like outside of that range, I would really focus on next week finding a way to get to that daily protein amount every single day. So maybe plan a little bit more for the week, try to find some more protein sources that you can include in your diet, and try to hit that target closer. Because with protein, you can't undereat with protein on certain days and then make up for it on other days. Like, it's not like carbs and fats where you can kind of distribute them however you want throughout the week. So it's really important that you get the daily protein target in, and then try to break that up pretty evenly between all your meals. So that's like the most important thing. But yeah, I would say I would mark non-compliant if you're outside of that range for protein, and then just try to hit it closer this coming week. But good question. Let's see. So Stephen on YouTube, could you say what kind of software updates are in the works? Every single day there is something in the works. Like, we're constantly working to improve this based on your guys' feedback. And like, we've received so much great feedback on the app, and recommendations and suggestions, and we're taking them all into account. We are going to be improving the calorie planner, making it more easy for you guys to use it, we've heard a lot with the sliders where people are struggling to adjust to a certain number. Like, if they want exactly 200 grams of carbs on a certain day, like, they're having a hard time hitting that slider there. So that is one thing I can say that is coming very, very soon to an update. But yeah, we constantly want to improve the app for you guys. And yeah, so great question. Let's see. So if you need to get smarter with increasing protein, it's a huge target. I need to do some research for sure. Yeah, like, protein is something a lot of people struggle with when they first kind of get into this and kind of try to track macros, and they realize that they were drastically under eating in protein, especially if they're like weight training regularly. Like, a lot of people tend to not eat very high protein foods. Like, mostly their diets are filled with carbs and fats. So it can be a wake up call for a lot of people that start this to really struggle with protein. So don't feel like you're alone in that. Like, I see it all the time. It takes planning, like knowing which foods are high in protein, then planning it and trying not to get behind. Like, if you plan out your day and have meal-based protein targets instead of just that overarching protein target, if you break it down into smaller chunks like that and make sure you stay on track with each meal, you'll be in a really good place. And I find, setting meal targets is easier for me personally to hit my protein target each day. So what I do is I want to hit 40 grams of protein per meal, and I'm going to eat 5 meals a day. So that throughout the whole day breaks out to my protein need, but I don't have to think about hitting that 200. I have to just think about hitting 40 at each meal, 40, 40, 40. Like, it becomes a lot less thought for me. And then I can just look at foods and know, like, okay, if I have this food and this food in my meal, I'm going to hit that 40 easily. So I think breaking it down into more manageable chunks can really help people as well. So Let's see. Great questions, guys. Got a lot of people on here, which is awesome. Thanks for tuning in today. Let's see, what do we got? Any good questions here? Great info. Struggling with protein. Yeah, like I said, it's the one that most people struggle with when they start out. So each week it will get better. Just try to make small improvements over time, and you'll get there where it gets to a point where it's like second nature. So can I add past days weights if I just started using the app? You can, but the coach is going to make recommendations based on when you start your goal. So it's not going to look at past data to determine like the initial starting place. So what I would do is just get started with it and then just start putting that information into the app now. And then moving forward, it'll start evaluating all that info. But yeah, you can't like go put 2 years of past information in the app and have it spit out something different. You kind of just need to get started using Carbon and then putting the information in, and then it'll get better over time. Let's see. This is one we get often, diet breaks. Can you do diet breaks in the app? And how do you do diet breaks in the app? So there is a really good video on this in the Help Center, joincarbon.com/help. But basically, you can do diet breaks in the app. It's not like automatically built into the system, but the way the system's set up, it works very easily. So what you would need to do is, if you're in a fat loss phase, let's say you want to do 3 weeks fat loss, 2 weeks diet break. So you start a fat loss goal, follow that for 3 weeks, check into the app. After those 3 weeks, the app has enough information to accurately estimate where your maintenance calories are. And then when you want to do your diet break, you would go into the settings, coach settings, and then goal and switch it to maintenance. And basically diet breaks are just weeks at maintenance. So what you would do is you would switch it to maintenance. You would use that estimated maintenance based on where you have been progressing and what the app has determined is your maintenance. And then you stay on that maintenance for 2 weeks, and then you switch it back to fat loss. And then when you switch it back to fat loss, you're going to want to also use your estimated maintenance. And then you can kind of just jump back and forth between those two settings as often as you want to do a diet break. So that's how I would recommend implementing diet breaks in the app. Great questions. Let's see. Got some more here. Let's see, is canned tuna good source of protein? Absolutely, yes. Tuna is one of a main source of protein that I like to include in my diet. Yeah, tuna is a good source. I would recommend, if you want to have tuna, I wouldn't just get plain tuna because it doesn't taste the best, but they sell tuna packets that have flavoring in them. So I like to buy those. Like, they have really good flavors, and my favorite's the hickory smoked. So I would look into the flavored tuna packets if you're sick of just plain tuna. How many protein shakes? Too many in a day? I don't know. There's not really research on that saying, like, if you have 2 or 3 protein shakes in a day, it's bad for you or anything like that. But what I would recommend is trying to vary your protein sources throughout the day, just because they're going to have different amino acid profiles. So if you get all your protein from a single source, there could be a potential that you might be missing out on certain amino acids. Now, protein tends to be a complete protein source, so you do get all of the essential amino acids, but I still like to vary my protein sources throughout the day if I can. And so I would recommend personally probably just keeping protein shakes to once a day, and then trying to increase your protein through the foods that you eat. Great questions. Let's see. So how does the app decide when setting up an account your weight loss rate? Is it set by body fat percentage, amount of loss, or what? So Shane, the rate slider that you see when you're setting up a goal is going to be based on your current body weight. So we don't want you to lose more than a certain amount per week, because we feel like past a certain point, it becomes very unsustainable. And then also you risk losing too much muscle as you're dieting. So the rate sliders are based on your current body weight when you're setting your goal. Great question. Can you touch on the guidelines for compliance or non-compliant? So the app will give you the compliance range when you check in. It'll ask you, are you within these certain macro targets for the week? And as long as you're within that range, you are considered compliant. So technically, like, you could take it further than that, and you can kind of manage compliance in your own way. Like, for example, if you want to just hit protein and calories just because you don't want to stress about the carbs and fats that you're eating throughout the week, if you want to personally consider compliance hitting your protein and your calories, I think that would be fine as well. It just depends on how strict your goal is. I think the more strict your goal is and the more you're trying to achieve, the better off you are being a little more tight with your tracking and making sure you're hitting certain macro targets. But yeah, so when you check in, it'll give you the compliance range for the macros, and then just hit yes or no if you are in that range. Great questions. Jumping back over to Insta to answer a few here. Would you recommend overshooting your weight loss goal to have room to reverse to your goal? Yeah, I actually would. I think that's a great approach. So if you are in a fat loss phase and you have a goal weight in mind, I would probably overshoot it by, anywhere from like 3 to 5 pounds, because as you reverse diet, you will probably add a little bit of weight in the process. And if you can kind of go below on the fat loss and then bring it up with the reverse slightly, you can kind of fall on that weight loss goal that you have, and you should be able to get your calories up quite a bit in the process. So what I like to do with myself and clients is definitely overshoot it just a little bit and then build up with the reverse diet from there. So that is a great question there, and that's what I would do. Let's see. Any more on Insta? So your yes/no answer is only input for compliance, not food tracking. I'm not sure if I completely understand, but it is, so what you track in your diet, the app doesn't pull that information. Like, we wanted to decouple the tracker with the coach so that anybody can use any tracking app they want. Like, not everybody is going to want to use the Carbon app to track their diet. So I think what you're asking is, like, does the coach look at your diary and make adjustments based on that? And the answer is no, just because it could introduce a ton of error. Like, if somebody were to forget to track a meal or forget to track a certain food, like, it could throw everything off. So what we do is we ask you if you're within that certain range for the week, and then if you are, then we determine if you need an adjustment to your macros. So hopefully that answers that question. Let's see. Any more on YouTube, Facebook? Let's see. Well, let's see. There's some more on Instagram I can go through. So thanks, you guys, for joining in. I appreciate it. If you guys like this, throw up some hearts. Give me some love. Let's see. So is there a way to share recipe within the app? Like, if I make something and want your husband to be able to track it, currently there is no way to share between accounts, but that's definitely something we want to include in the future. I can see that being a very handy feature, and we are talking about how we might want to implement it, but it would probably be a little bit of ways away from being implemented, but we definitely want to add that in the future because I can see that being very useful. So great question there. The app is amazing. Thank you. No, thank you. Like the support we've received so far, like from launch, is insane. Like you guys are the best, and we're just here to provide you with the tools to help you achieve whatever goals you have. So like we appreciate all the support, and we're here to help you along the way too. If you reach out to me at support@joincarbon, like I'll be answering all your guys' questions there as well, and helping you work through the app. So yeah, we appreciate it. Yeah, also somebody saying she could share the actual macros with her hubby. So if you do know, yeah, like if for the recipe, if you do know the macros, you can just say, hey, quick add, 40 grams of protein, 80 grams of carbs, 20 grams of fat. And you can easily quick add in the app by doing that. So I can show you also right now how to quick add. If you guys don't know, it's a pretty awesome feature that I use regularly. So if you want to quick add, you can do it by hitting the 3 dots next to whatever meal you want to quick add to. You can also do it inside of any meal occasion. So you would click on the meal, and then the 3 dots in the top corner, you can also access quick add. So I'll quick add. You don't have to enter a name when you quick add. You can just have it be blank, and then when it adds, it'll just say quick add. But let's say I want to just say, oh, this was dinner. So a quick add dinner. You don't have to put a calorie number in. If you leave calories blank, it will auto calculate based on the macros. So let's say dinner was 40 protein, 80 carbs, and 20 fat. And then I hit add. It'll add it, and then it'll auto calculate the calories, like I said. So that's a really useful feature if you don't have time to look up the information. If you know off the top of your head, okay, these are the macros, you can just quick add it like that. So I find that really useful, and it saves me a ton of time. Let's see. This is another thing that we'd like to add. Will the app link with my smart scale? It currently doesn't link with scales and devices, but we would definitely like to include more integrations in the future. Keep in mind, this is just version 1. Like, we're constantly improving this app. So we will add more integrations and stuff in the future. I think one that would be very helpful for a lot of people is just like an Apple Health integration. So we're considering it for sure. And like I said, we're constantly trying to improve the app. So in the future, there'll be a lot more of this stuff. Let's see. We got somebody spamming on Facebook. Let me block this dude. Let's see. Hold on. I'm just blocking somebody. Yeah, great questions, guys, so far. Keep throwing up the questions. I'll keep answering them. I'm going to be here for another half hour. So, yeah, throw up your best questions. Sorry, just deleting stuff here. Cleaning up the chat because this is PG-13 over here. When some food in the app says generic, those macros are always correct and I can trust them. So the generic are basically like the USDA type foods where it is more of like an average value of that type of food. So there might be slight variations in the specific one that you're eating, but that is like the average kind of value for that type of food. So you can trust that any food really in the database is going to be very accurate. The database is constantly, being worked on, being improved, and they are like constantly updating it. So the foods that are in there now are going to be added to over time. So if you're not able to find something now, there's a good chance that it'll be added and you'll be able to find it in the future. So that is that. Let's see. Okay, so this is one that causes a lot of confusion for people. So any suggestions on when calories remaining is higher than actual macros left? So the macros in the app, if you were to calculate if you were to look at your diary and say, you had 200 grams protein, 400 carbs, and 80 fat or something, if you were to calculate that out into how many calories you think that you ate, it will not line up with what the calories say there. And that is because of rounding in food labels. So manufacturers are able to round to the nearest, 5 calorie or 10 calorie. It all depends on the food item and how many total calories it has. They're able to round that. And when they do that, all of those small rounding errors throughout the whole day can add up to be a significant amount. Like you can hit your macro targets and then the calories at the top will say, 100 or 200 calories off from where you think it would be. So what we recommend is you aim for the macro targets and not really worry as much about the calories, because they're never going to really line up. And that's just due to how the food labels are. So yeah, if you hit the calories though, you are going to hit, if you hit the macros, you are going to hit the right calories by default. So just aim for hitting the macros and then let the calories fall wherever they may. But I totally understand how that can be confusing for people, because like they want to zero out all the dials, and sometimes you can't because of how the food labels have been manufactured. But would you guys find, this is a good question for you guys, would you guys find it helpful if we were to have that calorie number be based on a calculation from your macros that you consumed? Or would that be too confusing? Because then if you were to look at the food labels, it might not line up on that end. Like, what would you prefer? Would you prefer the app to take what the food labels have for calories, or to use more of a calculated amount? So I'm interested in hearing feedback on that one, because we've talked about it in the past, and we just want to do what makes the most sense for the most people. So if we can get some feedback on that, that'd be awesome. Great answer for macros versus calories. You're welcome. Yeah, taken from food labels, macros calculated. Yeah, see, I think it's gonna be like a pretty even split across the board. So maybe even a preference of, you can choose, I would want it to be calculated or I want to use the food labels, like maybe something like that. Would that be helpful if you guys could have the choice? Let's see. Yeah, I see both food labels and calculated. So I think it is going to be a pretty even split. Yeah, or maybe user can select. That might be useful. So yeah, that's something we're going to definitely take into account and hopefully come up with a solution here, because it is a source of confusion for a lot of people. And that is also explained in the Help Center as well. So if you guys haven't checked out the Help Center, there are like a ton of videos and articles and stuff there that can really help you with these things. So definitely check out the Help Center. We're going to try to constantly add to there as we come across new questions that we see often. We're going to constantly be updating that. So be sure to check the Help Center if you guys have any questions. Let's see. So will there be an option to log without an app online, or is there one already? So I'm assuming you're asking like a website to kind of track your diet. We feel like a website is not going to be the most user-friendly for tracking. Like, you're not typically at your computer when you're tracking. You typically out and about with your phone. So that's why we're mainly investing in mobile apps, because it's a lot more convenient and you can take it with you throughout the day. So we don't have a way to do that online, and we also don't have plans right now to add that functionality. But if it's, like I said, if it's something that a lot of people feel like they could benefit from, we definitely would consider something like that in the future. But for now, we're sticking with Android and iOS apps. Let's see. So should we focus on protein per pound of lean body mass or per pound of body weight if the goal is to gain weight? What's the main difference? So most people kind of base it just on weight, but with the Carbon app, we actually base it on your lean body mass. And the reason we do that is because it's going to be a little bit more accurate. It's going to give you a more accurate target, because the amount of protein you need to eat is in direct relation to the amount of lean body mass you have. And so if you have more lean body mass, you're going to require more protein. But if you were to just go by body weight and you have, let's say, a lot of excess body fat, that's going to push your protein target up really high, and you don't necessarily need that high of protein, because it's kind of, the protein's there to help build and maintain muscle and like protein turnover. So it's directly proportional to the amount of lean body mass you have in your body. So the reason why we set it based on lean body mass is just to be more accurate and provide you with better targets. And, you know, it's better to have an accurate protein number, and then you can allocate the other calories to carbs and fats and have more room. Because like if you were to go with body weight, let's say you're overweight, your protein target's really high, it's going to offset the amount of calories that you can eat for carbs and fats, and it's just going to make the diet probably a little less sustainable. So we definitely go with the lean body mass. Great questions. Is this question showing? Yes, it is. Let's see. If you guys have questions on Facebook and YouTube, be sure to throw them there and I'll pop them up on the screen. Let's see. So any good questions over here? Great questions so far, guys. I'm just trying to find another one to answer here. So any thoughts about adding a flexible option for tracking the carbs and fats? What I'm assuming is like being able to just trade carbs and fats pretty easily in the app. And that would come down to having the option to like specifically choose your ratios on each day and be able to adjust that. The app doesn't currently allow that, but that is something that we want to include in the near future, is being able to not only set like a global diet preference where you set your ratios, but you can also fine tune that on the daily level. We've had a lot of requests for that, so that's something we are thinking about and trying to figure out how best to implement. So yeah, we're looking to add some more functionality around that in the future. Have you any specific guidance for underactive thyroid, even a resource you could point me to? So David, I would definitely talk with your doctor. If you have an underactive thyroid and you aren't taking medication, that's going to make things very difficult to lose weight if that's your goal. So I would definitely talk to your doctor and make sure that your thyroid levels are within the normal range, whether you need medication or not. And then that should kind of get rid of that difficulty that you might be facing because of your thyroid. So definitely look into talking to your doctor about that for sure. Let's see. Does it help to determine diet breaks when weight loss stalls? So if you do a diet break, you're basically taking your calories up to maintenance. Potentially that diet break can help you come back and lose a little bit more fat, just because it'll bump up your metabolic rate in the short term during that diet week, because the more you eat, the more your metabolism is going to speed up a little bit. So it can help. I have seen sometimes where you take a diet break and then a client comes back to weight loss and you see a nice big drop after a diet break. So it is definitely a strategy, and it's something that you can try. To do this in the app, you would switch over to the maintenance setting for a week or two and then switch back to fat loss again after that. And sometimes just mentally, like doing a diet break can help mentally and like recharge you for some more dieting. So if you've been run down, you've been dieting for a while, maybe taking a week or two at maintenance and then going back into a deficit And a lot of times that can help you adhere a lot better to your macros and just be more motivated, and you can train harder. So like that can also be a way that diet breaks help you kind of get past those weight stalls. But once you reach a point where like your calories are so low and you really need to cut them further and to see progress, at that point we recommend switching over to more of a reverse diet setting and work on building your metabolism over time, because you can only be in a deficit for so long, and it's always good to take care of your metabolism. So great questions there. Going back to Insta. Let's see. So do you reverse diet even after small cuts, like less than 5 pounds? It's just go to maintenance. So there's two questions there. The first question, do you reverse diet after small cuts? You don't necessarily have to, because with a small cut, it's going to be a very short duration and you likely don't have to take your calories very low. So there's not going to be much metabolic adaptation happening during that. So most of the time, depending on where you start with calories, you don't really need to worry about doing a reverse diet after a really small cut. And is reverse dieting just going to maintenance? So when you start a reverse diet, yes, you are going to maintenance, but there is a maintenance range. So your body has a certain calorie range that kind of it likes to stay at and where it considers maintenance. So you can be anywhere in that range and your weight can pretty much stay stable. And with the reverse diet, what we do is we start you out in that maintenance calorie range, and we try to reach the top of the maintenance calorie range and then slowly just keep inching your calories up and pushing that maintenance calorie range to try to make that go higher. That's kind of what a reverse diet is. So you are constantly in a state of like going from maintenance to a slight surplus, maintenance, slight surplus, maintenance, slight surplus. And hopefully doing that over time, your body adapts and speeds up its metabolism in the process. So that is kind of the basic rundown of what a reverse diet setting is. So yeah, that's a great question there. So another diet break question. If I wanted to just do 1 week of diet breaks in the app, how can I change my calories just for that week? So if you want to do a diet break in the app, what you need to do is go to settings, coach settings, and then goal, and change that to maintenance for that 1 week. And then after that week, you would change it back to fat loss, and then you would check in. So kind of jumping back and forth between the fat loss and the maintenance setting is how you implement diet breaks in the app. And it should do this seamlessly, because as you're using the app, it's constantly keeping track of your maintenance calories. And then when you switch over to maintenance, it will sense that, and it will take that value and use that for the estimated maintenance on the diet break. Appreciate the hearts, everybody. Let's see. Heather, I use calipers to determine my lean mass. I know it's not completely accurate, but it is with the same tester every single time. How does the app tell you to determine lean body mass? So you don't need to enter lean body mass into the app. If you just enter in your body fat percentage and then your weight, the app will keep track of your lean body mass over time. So all you need to worry about is taking that body fat number that you're testing and enter that into the app each time you want to enter it. So that is what I would recommend. And then with body fat testing, like, yes, it's not going to be completely accurate, but as long as you are testing under the same conditions with the same tester, like you said, same method, it's going to not necessarily be that exact number where it should be, but the trend is what you can look at, because it's more the trend of your body fat number that's important because most body fat measurements are just like estimations of where your body fat is, and none of them are going to be completely accurate. So just try to be as consistent as possible with that. Let's see. So what if doing a reverse diet and want to do a small cut? Would you just go for fat loss phase for a week or two? So you're speaking of like a mini cut is what that is typically called. You can definitely mini cut when you're on a reverse diet, but it kind of delays the purpose of a reverse diet. So the purpose of a reverse is to improve your metabolism, and the only way you're going to be able to do that is if you stop these dieting cycles and you stay in a surplus and reverse diet for a long period of time. Now, if you are uncomfortable with the amount of body fat you have, you can do a mini cut, and the way that you would do that in the app is like if you're on a reverse setting, go to fat loss for probably, I would say mini cuts are typically like usually around the 4-week mark is a good place to shoot for mini cuts. It's more of a quick diet. You can lose at a faster rate and not really worry about too much metabolic slowdown. So I would recommend switching over to fat loss for like 4 weeks maybe, and picking a little faster of a rate. And then after that, jump right back to the reverse diet and continue the reverse. But if you can hold off, I would hold off on doing a mini cut or any kind of cut until after you've reversed for quite a while. Let's see. Great questions. Love all the hearts. So here's one from Facebook. I've been trying the keto diet, but I think I'm having trouble cutting back on all of the butter I use. I'm not seeing any progress. So yeah, I think when you have a really high fat intake, the potential for eating way more calories than you think is a lot higher, just because fat is 9 calories per gram, whereas carbs and protein are only 4 calories per gram. So it's a lot less forgiving, I feel like, and you can very easily overeat in calories if you are just eating a ton of fat. So if you're struggling with the keto diet, like I would definitely recommend kind of going to more of a balanced approach, because at the end of the day, it is going to come down to energy balance. So sounds like a keto diet might not fit your lifestyle best, which I kind of see a lot of people that it doesn't fit well with. So I would go with more a balanced approach, but don't just switch it overnight. Try to transition to it. So, try to slowly bring your carbs up and slowly bring your fats down a little bit to more of a balanced level. Because if you were to just completely change overnight to a different approach of eating, you're probably going to feel like garbage. So try to slowly transition. Let's see. I've been inputting my daily body weight into the MyFitnessPal for years, and I don't want to lose that data. Any way to transfer? Honestly, that's the only reason I won't change app. Yeah, I think a lot of people have a ton of data built up into other tracking apps, and it can be hard to make that switch. But I think I would just think about long-term, what app would you want to use? And if you see yourself wanting to use Carbon over the long term, it might make sense to switch over to that. Unfortunately, there's no way to input that information into Carbon and keep it there. But if you start fresh with Carbon, you know at this point in time, all your data is going to be here. Whereas if you want to look at past information, you can just go to MyFitnessPal and look at what you have in the past. But yeah, we're sorry that we can't transfer over that information at this time. And that's a great point. Yeah, you can, with MyFitnessPal Premium, you can export as a CSV just so you have that data, but there is no way to input that into Carbon. When using the app while competing, would we reach out? Who would we reach out to for show week guidance / macros? So that's the only hard part. Like you can you can use carbon all the way up to like peak week, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to. And peak week is just so a different animal. So like you will have to have a peak week coach or something, or opposing coach and other coaches around competing that carbon can't really help you with. But luckily you won't need them throughout the whole diet. Like you can just hire them at the end for that final push. But carbon, so if you want to use carbon with competing, you just need to kind of back calculate how much progress you need to make to reach your desired stage condition, and make sure that you kind of build in a little cushion when you are setting your goal. So on fat loss, make sure you set a rate that can get you ready ahead of time, because it's always good to be ready ahead of time before a few weeks out before a show, so that you can kind of slowly kind of fill back out, ramp up calories just a little bit, and that usually works out really good. Yes, Bailey, it's definitely a different animal, and carbon currently doesn't support peak week stuff. Let's see. So having trouble getting in enough fiber on my bulk, tips on what food swaps I should make. So that's interesting that you're having trouble getting in enough fiber on a bulk. Like on a bulk, I usually have to consciously avoid higher fiber foods just because of the amount of carbs that I'm eating on a bulk. So that's interesting. But in order to increase the fiber, you're going to have more whole grains, more fruits, more vegetables. I think an easy way to start is, including a fruit or vegetable with every single meal. If you make that your goal to include a fruit or vegetable with every single meal, it can help make that a lot easier. Bailey's saying lavish wraps, 100%. Lavish wraps are where it's at. I believe they have like 10 plus grams of fiber in a wrap. So you can look at specific products like that are super easy to get a ton of fiber. But on a bulk, like I said, it shouldn't be that difficult to hit the fiber target, but just make sure you're eating more whole foods to hit your targets, and that should easily make your fiber target a lot higher. And I would also really recommend getting your fiber through foods over supplements. I think the more times you can, the more you can try to improve your diet to the point where you don't need supplements is, I think, a better choice. It's not like fiber supplements are going to be bad for any reason, but I think the goal of your diet should kind of be to fill those gaps before, and you won't necessarily need a supplement. So 3,200 calories and 10 grams of fiber. Oh my goodness. That is very big discrepancy there. So I would definitely look at what food choices you have and try to include, whole food choices instead of more refined stuff, because the refined stuff is going to be a lot lower in fiber. And then fruit or vegetable with every single meal. Great questions. Anybody have like app specific questions? I do have the app pulled up and I can show you stuff in the app if you guys have any app specific questions. Let's see. So Heather, if you're interested in the app and you want to see what it has to offer, we don't have a trial at this time. We definitely want to include a free trial in the future. But for now, if you want to kind of check it out and see what it's about, I would really recommend going to joincarbon.com and then also visiting the Join Carbon Help Center, which is joincarbon.com/help. There's a ton of videos there where you can see all of the features, and you can see all the screenshots and videos and stuff, so you can get a really good idea of what the app is and what you can expect if you do sign up. Let's see. Great questions, guys. I got about 6 more minutes here, and then Instagram's going to kick me off. So throw up all your good questions, and I'll keep answering them for as much time as I have left. So can you use the saved recipe as an ingredient in another recipe? I haven't tried it, to be honest. I think you can. Let me try that real quick. So let's see. Recipes. So this is a test recipe. Let's say I want to create another recipe. Let's say this is test 2, 1 serving. So no, I was mistaken. You cannot add a recipe inside of another recipe. So you can't group them that way. But I don't know what the specific use case for that would even be. So we don't allow you to do that. Let's see. So so if you can't find your fiber goal, or there is no fiber goal in the app, but if you can't find where to see how much fiber you ate per day, that is on the nutrition overview page. So there's a little I button in your diary in the macro targets up at the top there. If you click the I, it'll throw up a page where it shows your daily overview of what you've tracked, and fiber is right in there under carbs. So you can see how much fiber you had per day by pulling up that screen there. We don't set a fiber goal in the app, but having a fiber target that you kind of aim for is probably a good idea. And what I would recommend is shooting for about like 15-ish grams of fiber for every 1,000 calories that you consume. This is a good kind of benchmark to shoot for to make sure that you're getting adequate fiber for the amount of calories that you're consuming. Let's see. Great questions. Got a few more minutes on Instagram, and then I probably will also hop off on Facebook. So throw up some more questions. But you can't add fiber when you quick add, so is it accurate? If you don't use the quick add feature, yes, it would be accurate. But if you are using quick add, typically, if you're using quick add, you typically also don't really know the amount of fiber that you're consuming in that quick add. And if you do, I would recommend using the create food. So I would create a food if you know more information about it. But if you only know the macros and you just want to quickly add those, I would do that. So I don't really stress too much about fiber. What I do is I make sure that I'm hitting my macro targets with like 80 to 90% whole foods, and then I pretty much am going to by default hit the right amount of fiber. So I wouldn't stress too much about the fiber target. Just make sure that you're consuming the macro targets from higher fiber type foods, and you should be fine. Let's see. 1 minute and 40 seconds left, and then it's going to kick me off. So I'll answer one more. Let's see, one more question. So Stephen, I'll answer this one. Does the Apple Watch calorie tracker even come close in determining calories? It depends, but it's very inaccurate for most people, it's very inaccurate at estimating calories burned. Any fitness tracker really is. So I don't recommend looking at the estimated calories burned from fitness trackers. What they are good for is keeping track of like your steps and making sure you're hitting certain activity targets, but don't take the calorie number as anything very accurate, because studies have shown them to be pretty inaccurate. So Apple Watches are great, but look at more the step count than the calories burned that they say. So it looks like I have 40 seconds left, and then I'm going to be kicked off. So I appreciate everybody joining in today. We're going to be doing live Q&As every Friday. So next week's going to be Lane. The week after that's going to be Holly. So we're going to be here every week on Friday to answer your guys' questions about the app and then any other nutrition topics that you have. So I want to thank everybody for joining, and thank you to everybody that signed up for Carbon. We appreciate all the support. And yeah, so I hope you guys have a great day, and we will catch you later.